Hola, hola. My name is Angelica, and I will be guiding you on this final mile Español para mí lesson. Many people are intimidated by rolling R's. It turns out the Spanish R has two different sounds, both of which are challenging for American English speakers and are significant contributors to a foreign accent. In this lesson, we cover both sounds and learn which to make when. Not unlike speech therapy, it will take time and practice. Relax and be prepared to imitate sounds the way you imitated animal sounds when you were a young child. This is a bit of a longer lesson with multiple homework and practice exercises. You are encouraged to pause and do the exercises at the end of each section so you are naturalizing as we proceed. Let's start the fun. Let's relax and learn how to make those R sounds represented by the Spanish letter R. Let's have a look at where we are in the curriculum. There it is, articulation of R, still in the pronunciation module. The only prerequisite to this is Spanish letters and sounds, which has actually 2 lessons. Okay, a little bit of context for the lesson. R is the 5th most used letter of the Spanish alphabet. If you took the letters and sounds lesson, you know that in Spanish, 50% of the letters in a page of text are vowels. But the R is even more common than 2 of the vowels. So that tells you that the R shows up a lot in Spanish. It accounts for 7%, even though it's just 1 out of 27 letters in the alphabet. It accounts for 7% of the letters in text. Many words have more than 1 R. Let's look at them. So here's words with 2 R's. Okay, perro, carecer. This is just introduction, so don't worry if you can't pronounce them yet. Okay. Some words have 3 R's. Arrancar, cerrajero. Some words have 4 R's. Horrorizar, arrastrarán. And I'm not trying to intimidate you here, right? It's like we are going to learn how to do this. The point is to understand from the very beginning that avoiding the R because you don't know how to make the sounds is probably not a very good strategy. So let's just put on our big girl panties and get this done. We're going to learn how to do it, okay? There is a word here with 5 R's in it, in just one word. It seems like half the letters in the word are R's. Ferrocarrilero. Okay. A less than adequate pronunciation is obviously a very noticeable part of a foreign accent in Spanish. Okay. R in Spanish represents 2 different sounds. Okay, so we need to start getting that in our minds from the very beginning. Okay, and we're going to learn how to make them. Okay, there's the flutter and then there's the roll. The roll is what everybody is intimidated by. You've heard it. But not always do we roll when we see an R. Sometimes we do a flutter, and that's a different sound, and we'll learn it in a minute. Okay, so it depends on where the R is in the word, what sound we make. Okay. Both sounds can be challenging to non-native speakers and account for a significant part of a foreign accent. So this is why this lesson is in the pronunciation and how to speak Spanish without an accent module. Okay, in this lesson, we learn to make the sounds. In the syllables lesson, we learn which to use where. Let's start with the flutter R. You may recall, if you have already taken the syllables lesson, you may recall that the flutter R only happens when it is a single R between 2 vowels. Okay, I will often refer to it as the Betty R. And the reason we say American Betty is this is our anchor word, okay? This is the word that we're going to start with when we start to learn to make the flutter R. But I say American Betty because if you say this name in British English, it's not going to make that flutter R sound. It's going to be Betty. Okay, so we want to pronounce this word. When I say Betty, I want you to say it with an American accent. Betty, 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 Betty. Okay, so let's see. Okay, the double T sound in Betty with an American accent is exactly the Spanish flutter R sound. So you already know how to make it. Okay. Unfortunately, what we have to do, and it's going to take some practice, is we have to train our brain to make that sound, okay, that you make when you see the double T in Betty, to make that when you see the R sound and not make the American English R sound. Okay? The sound is not the problem. You already know how to make it. Betty. Whenever you say Betty, you're doing it. Okay? It's the association. So we have to train the brain. Okay? We have to circumvent the English letter sound association. And we need our sound anchor word. Okay? So whenever we're going to say the flutter R in Spanish, we need to think of the word Betty. When I tell you, go to your anchor word, that's what I mean, Betty. And you don't just have to think about it, you actually have to say it. Betty, Betty, Betty. In fact, as you say it now, take a moment and experiment. Say Betty 3 times. And focus on how your tongue feels when you are making that sound between the E and the Y. There is a flutter there, okay? It's kind of like a butterfly. Your tongue goes up and down. Betty, Betty, Betty. Feel what your tongue is doing, okay? So that you know why it's called a flutter R. The target word is going to be your Spanish word that you're trying to say, okay? So we go to Betty for our anchor sound, and then we slowly work our way to the Spanish word. Okay, do not focus on the spelling of the target word because your brain is used to making certain sounds when it sees certain letters, and it's going to be hard to circumvent that if you are looking at the spelling. Let's see, where am I? Okay, once you have the correct pronunciation, the correct sound, then we reassign by repeating it over and over while looking at the Spanish word. Okay, we're going to go through this process quite a few times here, okay? Ejemplo, example, ejemplo. Here we go with the word pero. If we have an American English accent, we're going to say the Spanish word something like pero, pero. Do you hear the difference? Pero and pero, pero. Okay, so here's the first step. Say Betty 3 times. Betty, Betty, Betty. And focus on what your tongue is doing as you are emitting the sounds associated with that double T. Okay? We will then change the ending of Betty to an O. So after saying Betty, 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 we're going to say Bero, Bero, Bero. And then, you probably guessed it, we're going to change the beginning of Betty to a P. So it's going to go Betty, 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 Bero, 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 pero, pero, pero. And there you are. You are saying a perfectly accented pero in Spanish. And then once we have that, once we are saying pero, 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 we take our eyes and we put them on the letters, on the word pero, right? Without letting go of the sound, okay? So, Betty, 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 Bero, 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 pero, pero, pero. Put your eyes on the 4 letters, P-E-R-O, and keep saying pero, pero, pero. This is how we are going to train the brain. This is not about learning to make the sound. We already know how to do that. It's about training your brain to make a new association, okay? this will reassign in your brain the correct sound to the Spanish letter R. This is a flutter R. Let's do it. If the word is longer than 2 syllables, okay, as in querida, the initial focus should be on the 2 syllables surrounding the R, okay? You can see why, right? This sounds a lot like Betty. So we are going to go to our anchor word, say Betty 3 times, Betty, 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 and then we're going to change the beginning to a K. Betty, 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 Kitty, 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 and then we add da at the end. Betty, 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 Kitty, 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 querida, querida, querida. And now that you're saying querida, 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 you focus on the letters for the Spanish word. Querida, querida. It is going to take quite a bit of practice. And a lot of students experience frustration because they expect that it's going to be very quick, right? Once you know, it's like, oh, okay, that's how you say it, then I say it. But you have to go through the process of retraining your brain. Okay, here is another word, more than 2 syllables, and the last 2 are the ones around the single R. Remember, flutter R only happens in Spanish when it is a single R between 2 vowels. Other than that, it is a rolled R, however short, right? You don't have to say right? You just roll it, 2-3 times, and that's a rolled R. So for example, this R here is a single R, but it is not between 2 vowels. So this is going to be rolled, okay? So we are focusing on this, okay? Paro. So what we're going to do is we are going to start with Betty. Go to our anchor word. Betty, 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 3 times, and focus on how your tongue feels, okay? Number 2, change the ending to O. Betty, 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 bero, bero, bero. Okay, change be to pa. Betty, 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 bero, 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 paro, paro, paro. You're there. Paro, paro, paro. You add the beginning. Preparo, preparo, preparo. And now that you've got the pronunciation, you put your eyes on the Spanish word and you say preparo, preparo. In somewhere in the beginning, okay, in this, while you are executing this process one step at a time, you will lose it, right? You will start saying something like preparo, paro, paro, and that's a very different R sound. That's an English R. So what you do then, rather than try to recover mid-process, you go back to Betty, right? You have to go back to your anchor word. Prepare to say Betty hundreds of times as you get through this lesson and the corresponding homework exercises. And the last step is we focus, once we are making the right sound, we put our eyes back on the Spanish word, okay? We are associating. Okay, here is another word. In the middle of the word, we have the 2 syllables that have the single R surrounded by 2 syllables. So that's our flutter R or Betty R, okay? So, you know where to start. Say Betty 3 times. Betty, Betty, Betty. By now, you know what's going to be the next step. We're going to change the Y to an A. Betty, 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 Bera, Bera, Bera. And then we're going to change be to pa. Bera, 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 para, para, para. That's a perfect para, okay? Para, 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 okay? Then we add sion, paración, 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 comparación, comparación, comparación. If you are having a little bit of trouble, everybody does that, okay? Just managing expectations here. You're not the only one having difficulty with this. It takes a lot of practice. So if you lose it somewhere down the process here, just go back to Betty and do it again, okay? And that will continue to happen for a long time, but this will work. Okay, let's practice some words. You will notice that in all these words, the R, which is in red, is going to be a single R between two vowels, okay? Let's say this word. Beri, 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 bera, 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 ora, 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 ahora, ahora, ahora. Now, if you already know how to make the flutter R, well, then, you don't need to worry about Betty or anything like that. But if you don't, or you don't do it consistently 100% of the time, then this is very good practice. Again, in every word here, we are going to see a single R in red between two vowels. Betty, 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 bere, 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 sere, 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 cerezo, cerezo, cerezo. Okay. My best friend in graduate school. Okay, let's not mess this up, okay? You've probably seen this name in English and it sounds like Laura, Mora, but we know better than that now, right? You know how to say this letter followed by this letter. So this is going to be Maura, Maura. Okay, let's keep going. Pared, pared. Barato, barato. And if you need to stop, you can pause the video and do your berries and get there, right? This would be beri, 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 bera, 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 bara, 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 barato, barato. And don't get frustrated. You're going to have to do that. If you need to work on the association, you're going to have to do that a few hundred times before your brain is trained, okay? So here we go. Marea. Dorado. Parada. Hopefully by now you don't need the highlighting on the pronunciation emphasis syllable. Hopefully your brain is now very ready and that has naturalized and you can identify which syllable has pronunciation emphasis. Okay, what does GE sound like? G, strong H sound. G, flojera. Cámara. Parásito. This is challenging for most people, okay? Remember, the rule is you have to say each vowel individually. So this is not you, this is europeo, europeo. Okay, flutter R in conjugation. It is very common. Remember we said that the R is even more common than vowels in text? Okay, than some vowels, I should say, okay? The vast majority of verbs will have a flutter R for each person, meaning I, you, he, she, we, you, they, okay? In the future and the conditional. So this is why we want to do this lesson now before we get into all the repetition that we need to naturalize the conjugation, because if we're not making the right sound, then we are reinforcing the wrong sound. And that is exactly what you don't want to do. A lot of programs just let you get through and say, okay, we'll deal with the accent and pronunciation at the end. And by then you have made the sound wrong so many times that it takes that much longer to unlearn it and then relearn it correctly one more time. Okay, so let's do the verb cantar. If you haven't taken the conjugation lesson at this point, don't worry about it. At some point you will. We're just trying to illustrate here why it's important to learn this now, okay? So there is the verb cantar. We are going to conjugate it in the future. If I can put my cursor in the right place. Look at that R between two vowels in every single person. I will sing, you will sing, she will sing, and so on, okay? So this is very important to have ready before we get to the future and the conditional. So this is going to be cantaré, cantarás, cantará, cantaremos, cantarán, cantarán. And the conditional will have it, even though it has a different ending, the ending starts with a vowel, so it's going to have the same issue, okay? So the vast majority of verbs, sometimes they're irregular, but even most of the irregulars will have this. So we need to make sure that we can do this sound right before we start doing all the repetition to naturalize conjugation. Yo cantaría, tú cantarías, él cantaría, and so on. Okay, we're not learning to conjugate in this lesson. We are just understanding where we are going to see the flutter R and why it's important to learn it now. Okay, so there you see it again. Just about any verb will have this issue. Okay, because verbs end in AR, ER, or IR, so there is the letter, the vowel before the R, and then the endings here for both the future and the conditional start with a vowel. So you always have a single R sandwiched between two vowels. Okay, and we will do an IR verb. Same thing. There you see an I before the R, but the endings always start with a vowel. So very important that we learn to do this right. And I know I just told you how to do it, but I understand you can't do it just yet because it takes so much practice. So we want to get through this lesson. We want to do the homework and practice exercise, and you want to do a whole lot of repetition, and it will happen over and over, right? You start the process and you do your beri, 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 bera, 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 and before you know it, you're saying an English R. And so you just go back, right? That's to be expected. It's not just you. Everybody goes through that. Okay, so there is going to be, I believe it's a separate homework and practice exercise where we do an advanced flutter R, because there is something peculiar about this. Okay, many verbs will have two flutter R's for each person in the future and the conditional. And so at this point, you're making a big effort to configure your speech muscles to generate a flutter R, and then you have to get out of it and then get back in it right away. It takes time. I just want you to be prepared, right? That this is going to take practice. It's not going to be easy, so that you hopefully you won't get frustrated in your attempts to do that. Okay? It is more difficult to do it when you have one after the other. Look at this verb. Parar, to stop. You know, when we put the endings on it for the future and the conditional, that is going to add another vowel there. So look at this. We have a flutter R here between two vowels, followed immediately by another flutter R between two vowels. This is hard to do. Okay, so try to do the homework and practice exercises in sequence and do the advanced flutter R homework exercise after you've done the fundamentals. So what is this going to sound like? I'll read the first few. Yo pararé, tú pararás, él parará. So what we try to do in the homework exercise is to get you to do one single flutter R in the word, okay, and get you to be comfortable with that before you attempt to do back-to-back flutter R's like we have here. And the same thing is going to happen here with the conditional, okay? I'll read the bottom ones. Nosotros pararíamos, ustedes pararían, ellos pararían. Take heart, okay? I have taught many dozens of people who had a really hard time making the flutter R to make a perfect flutter R. So the process works. You just have to be patient with yourself and keep going back to it and keep repeating and keep going back to your anchor word, Betty. Here's another one. Okay, you see right there, if it ends in vowel, single R, vowel, single R, you're going to have two back-to-back. Aclararé. Tú aclararás. Ella aclarará. Nosotros aclararíamos. Ustedes aclararían. Ellos aclararían. Remember, singular between two vowels, and here they happen back to back. Okay? I'm just going to say them so that you don't, I'm not expecting you to be able to say them perfectly at this point, okay? But you know the process. I want you to focus on the sound, okay? This is going to be a flutter R or a Betty R. Call it whatever you want to call. Flutter R, Betty R, either works, okay? Between two vowels. This is not a flutter R. This is not between two vowels, so that's going to be a roll. Not a long roll, but you have to roll it a couple of times. So this is adorar, adorar, merecer, explorar, mirar, mejorar, preparar, this, not this, okay? This, long I here, disparar, durar, carecer. And remember, you can always watch the lesson 2 or 3 or 4 times. They're free, right? So just, you can relax the first time through and just watch it and get the lay of the land. And I can guarantee you the second time around, you're going to be so much better prepared because you will know what's coming and you will be able to pay more attention to the details. So planning on watching a lesson at least twice is a very smart strategy. Okay. Another challenge here, the flutter R in combination with the vowel I is a particularly challenging sound sequence for non-native speakers. Okay, so even after mastering the individual sounds, there is a tendency, a very strong tendency, to shorten the I before or after a flutter R. I have to remind my live one-on-one students so much, and they laugh at me because I tell them I am going to tattoo this on my forehead so that I don't have to keep telling you, do not shorten the I. In this, you're going to find that after a flutter R or around the flutter R, there is a huge tendency. It's very difficult to overcome it and to say a long E. Okay, so just telling you where you are going to find the challenges. And if you are prepared, then you know. Okay. So for focus practice, we are going to use the verb ir. Okay, 2 challenging sounds, right? This is not ir. Okay, it's ir. This is a roll, and this is a long E, not short. Ir. So now we have a flutter R right after an I. So this is not ire. Okay, do you hear the difference with an English sound? Ire, ire. Okay, it's ire, ire, irás, tú irás, ella irá. And going to the conditional, nosotros iríamos. Ustedes irían, ellas irían. Notice how both of those I's are, I'm smiling for them. Okay, irían. You can try it. Okay, hopefully you didn't do too badly. Okay, don't forget to smile for each one of the I's. So, double to go. Verbs ending in R-I-R. Look at this. There is the difficult I in between 2 flutter R's. Yo moriré, tú morirás, él morirá, nosotros moriríamos. Feel your mouth as it tries to say that. Moriríamos. Ustedes morirían. So just letting you know that this is going to go in steps. Some words are more challenging than others. So we'll do the easy one first. The easy ones first. Okay? You have to smile for each of the eyes. We don't want to shorten any of them. Transferir. Yo transferiré. Tú transferirías. You will see this conjugation in the advanced homework assignment. And here, again, with the conditional, you are going to see two single R's sandwiched between three I's. Let's do that. Look at that. Yo adquiriría. Adquiriría. Try to say it as slowly as I am saying it. Yo adquiriría. Tú adquirirías. Not that I'm expecting you to say it perfectly from just having had this little bit of the lesson, right? But just so that you know that you know ahead of time that some words are going to be more challenging than others, and that is how we structure the homework and practice exercise. Again, another verb with that IR, and in the conditional, it's going to have an ending that starts with an I. So we have that I challenge. Ustedes inquirirían. This is hard to say because you have to start smiling here. You have to smile 4 times for this word. Try this one. Nosotros inquiriríamos. Okay? Again, we'll get there. Okay, and we are ready to start the tarea. Okay, this is in volume 1 in the syllable section, still in how to speak Spanish without an accent, and this is Flutter R Advanced. Okay, homework ID is 050, 22 pages. This is the QR code. If you don't have it, you can scan this QR code to go to the website, and don't forget to use this discount code, FM for Final Mile, FM YouTube. If you enter that discount code, you will get automatically 10% off. And this is what it looks like. Okay, so here we go. You see that this is a screenshot directly from the lesson. And these are the lists of words that you're going to practice with. And here is practice. You don't have some of the harder ones. Okay, and here is a bunch of IR verbs that you can practice with. Okay, more practice sheets, and back to the discount. Don't forget the discount code, FM YouTube. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the rolled R. Okay, we're going to talk about the physiology of it, and we're going to do some exercises, and we're probably going to spit on the screen quite a few times. Okay, tongue push-ups. Okay, we need a strong tongue to do this. Okay, and so we are going to do some tongue exercises. Okay, you're going to take a 6-inch length of dental floss. Don't attempt this if you have veneers. Okay, but if you don't have veneers, you're okay to do this. Get that length of dental floss, and you insert it between the 2 top front teeth. Okay, and now attempt to dislodge the dental floss with just your tongue. You will see that your tongue gets tired very quickly. Hopefully you don't have a really big gap when it's very easy for it to come out. Okay, so when you're doing this, you're going to feel strain just forward of your ears. That means that you're doing it right. Okay, we want to do this exercise for 2 minutes twice a day for 5 to 6 weeks. Only if you can't roll your R's, right? If you can already roll your R's, then you're there, you're fine. Okay, now we are going to do another exercise that we call the platypus flap. Why do we call it that? Look at that sweet little guy. His lips are like pouting way out there. And we are going to look like him, hopefully just as cute, when we are attempting to do this. Not that we do this when we roll the R, but it is a similar feel to rolling the R. So if you don't know how to roll the R, we're going to do this, okay? So we're going to configure our lips in a very pronounced pout. Remember, like this little guy right here, okay? The bottom teeth are tucked behind the top teeth in an overbite. Okay, both lips out in front of you, doing a very, very ridiculously pronounced pout. Now, we want to take a deep breath, fill your lungs with air, and with your lips relaxed, you want to blow a constant stream of air. I think some people call this a raspberry or something like that. So let's try it. And this is what it's going to sound like, okay? It helps to moisten your lips. Okay, what I'm trying to get you to do is I am trying to show you that what we are looking for is a vibration. Okay, as you strike the right balance between tension between the lips and air coming out. This is not how, again, this is not how we roll the R, but it feels somewhat similar. We are looking for that vibration. It is not that we are rapidly moving our muscles to create that roll. No, it is a vibration that happens when we strike the right balance of pushing air out in the tension between the lips. This is for the platypus flap, right? So when we do the rolled R, it's going to feel something similar like that if we are doing it right. Okay, so it's a balance of lip tension and airstream pressure. It causes the lips to flap repeatedly against each other as air pushes out. And it may take a few attempts, and moisten your lips, drink some water. It helps if they're not dry. And I take a moment to drink my water as well. Okay, here we go. This is what's happening, okay? A little bit of anatomy. So, this right here is called the alveolar ridge right here. I want you to find it with your tongue. This is your tongue right here. I know it doesn't look like a tongue, but this, trust me, this is what you look like inside, okay? So I want you to take this tip of your tongue right here and you touch the bottom of your top front teeth and then slide it up, okay, until you no longer feel bare bone of your teeth. But this feels very bony too. It's cartilage with just a little bit of skin on top of it, okay? So take the tip of your tongue and slide it up the back of your top front teeth until you find the alveolar ridge. Okay, so now what's going to happen is with your lungs full of air, you are going to push air out while you are holding your tongue there. Okay, and we want to achieve exactly that balance. That is what we are looking for. The balance of pressure of air coming out and tongue pressure holding your tongue to this ridge such that it vibrates, right? Enough air pushes it away so it can escape, but then the tension of the tongue pushes it back, and then air opens it up again, and then it pushes back, and that happens very rapidly. That is how a rolled R is made. Now, are you going to be able to do it just from looking at this slide? Probably not. But if you know what the physical configuration is, then you can start looking for it. Okay? Let's see. There we are. Okay. The English word with the most similar articulation configuration, meaning your muscles are pretty much in the same position as we have to put them for a rolled R in Spanish. okay, is this word. Okay, because when we make the TH, we put our tongue right there. Okay, and we push air out such that we don't say a T, but we say a TH. Th, 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 th. Say just the TH, and you will see that your tongue is in that vicinity, and that you make the TH by pushing air out. Th, th, th. Okay, and then you do an R. So really, if you are saying threat, 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 you are right there. Okay, very close to that. And then you just leave it there and it vibrates, and it's going to make the rolled R. Thr, 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 thr. Okay, so practice this, okay? Think of the word threat. Put your muscles, it's more than just your tongue, okay? It's your facial muscles. And you do that, okay? So airflow to make the TH sound, followed immediately by an R sound, produces a very short rolled R. Okay, it's the same tongue position. Okay, it doesn't have to be just threat. Okay, it can be any TRH. Okay, thrash, threshold. Any of these words, but if you just remember one, threat. Okay, so say each word focusing on the feel of the tongue as you pronounce the R, and you are right there, very close. So we just keep looking for it with that configuration, and one fine day you are going to find it. Okay, we have to strengthen our tongue with the dental floss exercise. We have to do the platypus R, okay, the platypus flap, so that we can feel what it's going to feel like, that vibration, right? We're not in control of every roll, it's just a vibration. So we want to strike a balance of the muscles holding together, like the tongue touching the alveolar ridge, and the force of air coming out. So we're looking for it, and one fine day you're going to strike that right balance, and a beautiful R is going to roll right out. Okay, this is just walking you through it. When you prepare to say these words, throw, throw, throw. Okay, feel the tip of your tongue slip back as you go from TH to R. Thr, 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 thr. Okay, so once you have awareness of the feel, you start looking for it. It's like, what is going to be just the right balance? And different things work for different people. Okay, so you can try saying thr, 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 thr. That's the closest that I can get you to it. It's interesting if you do a search on YouTube, how to roll your R's. There are so many different recipes, if you will, so many different instructions, and they all work, but for different people. So you never know what is going to work for you. So I suggest that you do that. You search YouTube and try different things and find the one that's going to work for you, and just keep trying. Okay, so with this understanding that we have here from the diagrams and the different things that I have suggested here, and look and practice and strengthening the tongue, one day you will be able to do it. Okay, but don't expect it to happen in a day or two, right? It usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, and don't forget to fill your lungs before each attempt, right? Because you need a stream of air. Okay, so words with rolled R's. When are we going to roll the R? A lot of people say, well, when you see a double R. Well, yes, when you see a double R, but also many times when you see a single R. In fact, you do it anytime that there is an R and it is not single surrounded by two vowels. Okay, so single R, at the beginning of a word. You never have a double R at the beginning of a word. So this is my sister's name. Here we go. Rosa. Okay. Single R, but not between two vowels. So this is going to be a little bit of a roll. Compra. Did you hear it? Pra. Pra. It rolls at least 2 or 3 times. Compra. Again, single R next to a vowel, but on the other side it doesn't have a vowel, so it is going to be a roll. Terco. Double R. This is between two vowels, but it's double, so we have to roll it. Torre. Okay, we have R's. Neither one of them is between two vowels, so they both have to roll. Presumir. Presumir. Rezar. Saltar. Enredar. Cerro. So the easiest way to remember it is you always roll it, whether it is single or double, unless it is single between two vowels. That's the only time it's a flutter. Okay? So the tareas are very good because you don't have to think of words. You don't have to look for them. They give you a ready long list of words for focused practice. Okay, and we want to use them prior to reading immersion, right? Because when we are doing reading immersion, we are reading out loud, and we want to make sure that we are not reinforcing wrong sounds. As important as mastering the sounds themselves, the roll and the flutter, is knowing which to make where. Okay, we're starting to figure that out. I think we've already covered it, right? The easiest way to remember it is if it is a single R between two vowels, it is a flutter. Otherwise, single or double, it is a roll. And smoothing the transitions. Okay, again, managing expectations. This is going to take time. You are learning new speech muscle configurations. You're learning to make these new sounds to you, and so transitioning from one of these configurations to the next sound is going to take some time. Okay, so to avoid frustration, expect that and give yourself time. So the reward is going to be great. You're going to be able to speak Spanish like a native, okay? So we know this is important, and it's going to take time to fix it. Practice makes perfect. We need patience, okay? Double R is always found at the beginning of an interior or last syllable. So we're never going to have a double R at the beginning or at the end of a word. Carro. Terrible. Terremoto. Herramienta. So you see there double R in the middle of the word, never at the very end and never at the very beginning. And it is always rolled. Single R can be found at the beginning or end of a word. In either case, it is rolled, because at the beginning or end of a word, it's not going to have vowels on both sides. Ropa. My aunt's name, Ramona. Smile. Risa. Regla. My uncle's name, Ruperto. Reloj. And at the end, of the word. Bailar, temer, dañar, decir, comer, oír. So, single R at the beginning or end of a word, it will always be rolled. Rolled and rolled. Before or after another consonant. This is inside the word. And this is a difficult transition, okay? Because we do it differently in English. So what I'm going to advise you to do is to put some white space in between here. However brief a moment of silence here, so that you say this independently of the next syllable. So we are going to say puerto. You don't need to leave that much silence in between, but you definitely need to separate them to make sure that you are rolling that R, okay? Puerto. Carlos. Cierto. Okay, this is in compound syllables. Pronto. Cráneo. Piedra. Enredar. Desregular. Enriquecer. It is rolled here and it is rolled here. So you're seeing it is rolled everywhere except for what? You say it this time. The only time that R is not rolled in Spanish is when it is a single R between two vowels. Otherwise, it is always rolled. And right here, we finally get to it. R can be found, single R can be found between vowels. There it is. And this is a flutter. Araña. Merecer. Maratón. Caro. Querida. Barato. And now we get into the back-to-back flutter R's of the conditional. Pararían. Uranio. Perecieron. Only case that is not rolled. Single R between two vowels. This is a flutter. Remember, our flutter is our Betty R, American Betty. Betty, 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 Bera, 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 Ara, 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 Araña, Araña. Summary. Whether it is single R or double R, it represents a rolled sound unless it is a single R between two vowels. If you remember this, then you will always know where to make the right sound. So then we just need to learn to make the right sounds, and we need to practice the transitions. Just expect this to take time. Okay, so if you want to take a picture or screenshot of this before I click, go ahead. And we are ready to do some tarea here. Okay, this is in volume 1. We are still in the syllable section, or how to speak Spanish without an accent. And this is a flutter or roll. That is what the tarea is called. This is the tarea identifier, the homework ID, and it is 18 pages long. If you don't have it, here is the QR code. And don't forget to take advantage of the promotion that we have. The discount code is FM for Final Mile. FM YouTube. If you enter it where you purchase the tarea, you will get a 10% discount. And let's look at some slides here. Some pages from the homework and practice books. Okay, so there is your words, your lists of words, so that you can do focused practice. This is obviously double R's. Okay, more double R's, now rolled single R's. And there you see that you have the screenshot from the lesson so that you can remember the steps and remember how to do it. More words, integration focused progress, examples, and back to the discount code. Okay, let's talk a little bit about transitions. We've already been mentioning that. Okay, rolled R followed by a consonant. We said that, right? Presents a challenging transition. So this is where I ask you to do a moment of silence, however brief. So don't be in a rush, okay? Speed is not your friend. Terco. Perla. Tierno. When you are new to the rolled sounds, okay, you really have to focus, and it's very difficult to transition. So if you separate them, believe me, eventually they will just come together. But you don't want to do that prematurely and then end up messing up the sound. Puerta. Invierno. Enfermo. Okay, in this position we know that R must be rolled because it's right before a consonant. Okay, the speech muscles are going to need time to reconfigure. Okay, and you practice pronouncing it as two separate words. Transition will slowly become smoother. And you're in control, okay? The more you practice, the sooner it will happen. You can make this happen in a matter of days. You just have to practice quite a bit. Be focused. I just highly recommend that you do, intense training, if you have the time, of course. Okay, the Spanish R, whether single or double, rolled or flutter, it's a challenge to master, okay? And it's a big contributor to a foreign accent. The speech therapy exercises are effective, very effective. I have never failed to teach someone, but they take time, discipline, and persistence. Don't give up. And remember, do your research. Go to YouTube, research it on Google, ask ChatGPT. Different things work for different people. Okay, we've already seen this a little bit to learn when to roll and where to flutter. This is more of about syllable separation. So the syllables lesson goes hand in hand with this. Do the corresponding tareas. That is the biggest thing that you can do. Okay, make sure you can correctly articulate the sounds before you reinforce incorrect sounds with repetition. So before you get to conjugation, if at all possible. Additional resources, okay, so this is google.com. If you enter the word that you want to learn, followed by definición, you will automatically get this page. Okay, you will click there to hear the pronunciation. There is a Spanish definition there and a translation. And there is more tarea here, okay? Again, volume 1, again in syllables, R plus consonant words. So this tarea focuses on those words, okay? This is the homework ID and it is 18 pages. Let's see if we can show you a few of those pages. Of course, there is the QR code. the 10% discount code FMU Tube, and here are some of those words. Okay, some pages from that particular homework and practice exercise. You see the screenshots there, okay? And then followed by the word list. And integration focused progress allows you to use templates, to use examples to make your own sentences. Congratulations, this is the end. There was quite a bit, okay? You might want to have some rest and view it a second time, and definitely do the exercises. You are now ready to do the homework and practice exercises. They contain screenshots taken directly from the lesson to help you remember the steps. Don't forget to do the repetitions in the naturalization section at the end. And remember, all your life, your brain has been making an American English R sound whenever it sees an R. We now have to retrain it to make two different sounds when it sees an R. Be patient. It will take time and practice.